Hello! I hope everyone's having a great day today. I am excited to talk about this subject, confidence and sexuality today, because it's something I haven't broached on this platform yet, my YouTube channel. Mainly because I've been single since I've started it until recently. And you know, the last thing I needed to do was to be thinking about my sexuality or talking about it. Like, I just kind of wanted to put it aside for a while because otherwise it just wasn't good. So anyways, but now I'm married, and as I was thinking about, you know, I always have all these ideas of what I want to talk about next. I mean, I have like 4 in my head right now. But I was thinking, you know, Valentine's Day is coming up, and how fun would it be to share some ideas? You know, like I always love like some bullet point ideas of fun things to do or whatever. And anyway, so I thought, oh, that'd be fun to make a video about that. And then as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, you know, before I would want to share something like that, I feel like it needs to be unwrapped a little bit. Like for instance, if I was writing a book on sexuality, maybe what I had ideas to talk about might be like in chapter 4. And so I feel like there needs to be some, like I said, some unwrapping of that. And so what I'm sharing with today might be like in chapter 1 or chapter 2. And so because I feel like, you know, we can have all the how-tos, but if how-tos, there's a book that I have somewhere in my book closet. It says, if how-tos were enough, we'd all be skinny, rich, and happy. You know, it's a lot more than just about the how-tos. It's about who we are as people, like how we see ourselves and how that's being projected, our mindset, all of that is before the how-tos. And so that's why I came up with, you know, I think what I would like to talk about is confidence and how we see ourselves. And really, I would kind of like this to be a 2-part video. Like at first I thought, oh, maybe I could share it all in one video, and that's how I come up with 30-minute videos. So I'm really trying to be better. But also the second part, if I do a second part, I feel like I kind of need to pray about it, because I'm going to bring in some personal stuff. If God says it's okay, I'll make a second part 2. So anyways, but as far as today, I do have a great story for you. And, but I'm just going to start off with, and you know, of course, I'm kind of speaking more to women because I am one, and it's easier for me to relate, obviously. But, you know, as a woman, I know, because I don't really see this with guys. As women, we are told, we are like projected, like people try to project on us, like, what is the ideal look of beauty? You know, of course, every decade, the idea of what the ideal look for beauty is different, you know. It could be super skinny one decade and then curvy the next, you know, it just depends. So we're told, like, if we're not big enough in this area or not small enough, or if we're like, for instance, like, what's wrong with telling people what our age is? You know, like, what's wrong with just embracing who we are? But like, we're given these messages and like expectations. Like, we have to look like we're 18. Well, that's just not practical. And we have babies, and we have to deal with our ever-changing bodies, mindsets, and juggling all these things. And I feel like we're told all of these things, and we need to have the right mindset around it and to have confidence in who we are. You know, when I was, and this isn't the story I was going to tell, but when I remember when I was in junior high, and one of my good friends lived next door to me, and I remember everything about it. Like, I was in her living room, and I don't know why, because like, as a mother myself and as a grown-up, I can't imagine saying this to a kid, but she told me that I would be a lot prettier if I had a smaller nose and a smaller butt. And I was like a toothpick as a kid, so I don't know what she was talking about. And I just remember thinking as a kid, like I was in about like 7th or 8th grade, and I remember thinking, like, what in the world? Thankfully, my parents had told me from a young age that if anyone says anything negative to you, it's either because they're jealous of you for some reason, or they had a bad childhood, like hurt people, hurt others, and so maybe they just struggle with some things themselves and they're just projecting that on you. And so I remember as a kid thinking like at first being kind of offended, and then being like, maybe she had a bad childhood. Who knows? But we're given these messages all the time, and most of the time they're all always unfounded. Like, why do we need to take on other people's stuff? And so that turns into us we can easily take on these things. Oh, we're not pretty enough. We're too big. We're too small. We're not this. I mean, there could be such a big list. And we take these comments on as our own, and they project in every area of our lives. They show up in how we raise our kids. They show up if we have a business and the amount of risk we're willing to take. They show up with our husbands in the bedroom. And so that's what I actually want to talk about today. Is it's so easy. Now, if you're someone who just exudes confidence, I applaud you, and that's so wonderful. But really, this is like maybe to help some women out there make some baby steps in becoming more okay with who they are, and just having more confidence in themselves and being okay with where they are at right now. So here's my story. I had to take a college class. It was a weighted class, and I took it in the summer, so it was like half the time. And I had the best teacher, hands down, I've ever had in my life. And so I'm just gonna set up the situation for you. So I walk into class, and her desk is right here, and the class is shaped in a U. So like this is where we could sit because there's like tables in the middle. And me being an adult, because that's when I took the class, I'm like, I'm gonna sit right in the front because I want to learn. Like, I don't need to like sit in the back and be distracted. So it was me and this other guy who came to sit beside me, and then everyone else is back here. And so we're waiting for class to start. So here she is at the front desk, or at the desk. Beautiful blonde waves, talons, black. I mean, fake fingernails that were super long and curled. And she was a very large woman. Like, she always wore knit, kind of shorter knit dresses, but she was a very large woman. And anyways, so I'm setting up the story. So I walk in, sit down, we're waiting for class to start, and she's like writing stuff down on her paper at the table. And she looks up, I'll never forget this. She looks up and she looks at everyone, and she's like, oh guys, you guys are so far away. She goes, come on up here, get closer to me. She goes, I promise I don't bite. And then she looks down, writes some more stuff, and then she goes, but I am a very large woman and sometimes I get hungry. I thought that was so great because she was, it was just one of those moments. It's like, I am a very heterosexual woman, and she said that, and I was like, dang, that was hot. I mean, and the whole class was filled with her saying stuff like that. I mean, there was one time she'd be like writing on the board, leaning over, bending down as she's writing, which, the short dress is coming up a little bit. She'd like realize it, and she'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was happening. And then she'd turn back to the board, and then she'd like turn back around and be like, or maybe I should say you're welcome. I mean, it was so great. And what was so great about it was she was comfortable in her own skin. Like, she talked about her whole life. She talked about her size, but she did it in a very positive way. She wasn't like it's like she exuded confidence, and it was such a beautiful thing. Like, she would say stuff, and I had like a note section on my phone so I could tell like my family what she said, because it was so great. I'm like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what she said today. Like, I wanted to be around her more. Like, I'm like, I wish we could like go hang out and have coffee, because I would love for some of that mojo to get on me. And so, you know, every one of us, I feel like in life, we have different people in our life that as we grow up, we're like, we have different people as in examples. And we're like, oh, I really liked how, like maybe my mom as an example. My mom was such a fun mom, so loving. She was such a great example. And I'm like, I want to be that way when I grow up. Or maybe we know someone in our life who was a great, like if we're in business, like someone who just had a lot of audacity and go-get-itness. Like there's those people in our lives that we kind of put in different places, and we're like, I like those character traits or those aspects of that person. I want to be more like that. You know, it could also be on the negative. We could be like, oh, I don't like how that person handles stuff like that. I don't want to be that way. Like, how can I not be that way in my life? And so she, my teacher, was one of those things that not only was she the best teacher I've ever had, but such a great example of owning wherever you are in life and going with it, like rocking it. And so what I want to bring that to is like coming back to home in the bedroom with your husband. Okay, and I word things like husband and wife because that is my frame. But with your husband, like there's some quote, and I wish I would have looked it up beforehand, but you know, my schedule got changed. And I'm like, you know, I'm just going to do it. But in a perfect world, I would have looked it up and memorized it and said it on here. But it's this quote, and she talks about, you know, why not be beautiful, and why not be intelligent, and why not be basically the fullness of who we are? Because it doesn't help the world to play small. It's not helping you to play small. It's not helping your husband to play small. It's not helping your daughters who are learning how to be women from you. And so, for instance, in the bedroom, if you are maybe someone who struggles with insecurity, with maybe the way your body has changed over the year, instead of walking in that like, I'm not like culture says I'm supposed to be, why not just embrace it and be okay with it? Because I guarantee you, your husband will loves you, who you are, loves you. And like it, for instance, okay, I'm just going to say like some baby steps. Like if you're someone that when it is time, like intimacy, okay, if you're someone who just feels very, doesn't like that vulnerability and you just want the lights off, what if instead like you put on like a soft light? Like you can even get those like twinkle lights that they have during Christmas time, which makes great lighting that's super soft and keeps it pretty dark. Or like by your bed, instead of having like a bright light bulb, how about making it softer? But doing things like that and kind of getting outside of your comfort zone, you know, I'm all about being authentic. Like of all the character traits in the world, I think my favorite things are someone who's loyal and someone who's authentic, like real. And so I'm all about being authentic. At the same time, which is why like I try and live my life a pretty open book. Like I share a lot of stuff on here, on YouTube, of people like I don't even know who's watching this. But I try and be real and authentic in my life. At the same time, there are we can also get very stuck in where we are in life. We take something negative that someone has said, and we make it into a couch that we've put in our little comfort zone, like our box, you know, like our box is not very comfortable. You know, the couch may be too short. the bed that we try and lay down on, the bed that's made from wrong words of people, like hurtful things, because like kids, even like people are affected by stuff when they're kids, stuff that kids have said when they're little. We make a bed out of it in our little box, and the bed's too short, but you know, it's what we know and it's comfortable. And to get to expand as a person, to become a better person, sometimes like breaking out of that box is a little scary, and it might not feel like we're being our authentic self, but that is part of growing and expanding as a person. It's like a seed that comes, like a plant that comes out of a seed, like it has to work to come out. Like it's not easy. Like a chicken getting out of its shell, or like a butterfly getting out of its cocoon. For a butterfly, I learned this lesson when I was a kid because I was camping one time and I saw a butterfly coming out of its cocoon, and me and my brother were like, oh my gosh, let's help it. Well, someone comes by and we're like telling him about this butterfly, and they're like, do you realize that the process of the butterfly fighting to get itself out of its cocoon is what gives it the strength to take off and fly? And they're like, you probably maimed it for the rest of your life. As a kid, I'm like heartbroken. But it's like that process, like it is not always easy, and it's not always comfortable, and it doesn't always feel like our authentic self when we're stepping out of a box. But when we see that the box is too small for us, when we see that the box doesn't let us live up to our full potential, then we need to, in our authentic self, step outside of the box and do some things. And that's why, like, you know, you can still be authentic, because that's very important to me. So like maybe that's why I'm saying it from there. You can still be authentic, but still take baby steps that might feel uncomfortable. It might feel like you're taking a risk. It might not feel right, but it is the right thing to do, because we are not serving ourselves or serving the world by playing small. And so if you feel like that you have stuck places in your life, and I know this has kind of gone off the subject of like what I started for, but like even stuck places in your marriage, why don't you look for ways to expand who you are as a person, love your husband to the fullest that you can, and step out of that box and maybe do some things that don't feel like that comfort zone that you're used to, or that box that you're used to living into. How about taking some baby steps to expand that and bring more joy into your life and bring more joy into your husband's life, which of course brings more joy into your whole family, affects the world. Okay, so little baby steps can affect the world. So that's all I got today. I will let you know if this turns into it, if there's a part 2 series coming up. But I hope you guys have a great day. I hope that what I shared helps some people out there. I know it's helped me when I've heard stuff like this before. Hope you guys have a great day. See ya.